This week on The Hustle, college football playoffs. Who's in, who's out? Let's talk hockey, East versus West. And be sure to stay tuned for a social media roller coaster and your top Hustle plays. All this and more on The Hustle.
A turnaround for the ages. Wing for Goose.
It's Verstappen, far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside. Hamilton sees him.
The Denver Nuggets can finally call themselves NBA champions.
Texas Rangers win the World Series.
Welcome back to another episode of The Hustle, your home for sports on the go. I'm your host, Ryan DeFranzo, alongside me, your analyst, Kyle McGee and Sean Gannon. How you doing, guys?
I'm great, man.
Looking forward to a great game of sports today.
All right, let's get into it. We're going to start off with college football playoffs. Obviously, Florida State is watching from home this year. Do you think the guys got the committee right or wrong?
No, they did not get this one right. I understand that the Jordan Travis injury may hurt them a little bit, but when do you punish teams for winning? You never do it. It's not often seen. And I think that the second most important thing about this that we need to remember is that these are student athletes, okay? These are not professional athletes. For a lot of them, this will be the last time that they ever put on the uniform, get to go out there and play a sport that they love. This was taken away from them when they absolutely deserve to be in there.
Yeah, it's hard to argue when you go out and you win every single game that you played, you know. But with the injury to Jordan Travis, it's hard to put them as a top 4 team in the country. I think their strength of schedule wasn't as good as a team like Alabama's, and I think that's why Alabama got in.
All right, so Kyle, you mentioned top 4 teams going in. We have Michigan, Bama, Washington, and Tennessee or Texas. And who do you think has the easiest pathway to a national championship?
I got to say that it's Washington. They have a great quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. They're playing a team in Texas who didn't have the best strength and schedule, you know. I just think that Washington has the easiest route.
I'm looking at the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're coming off of this massive win against the Georgia Bulldogs. They're facing a Michigan team that's offense has struggled, including J.J. McCarthy only has 1 passing touchdown the last 5 games. Michigan's played teams like Michigan State, Indiana, Minnesota, and they just played Iowa in the Big Ten National Championship. I think this is Alabama's game to lose more than anything. If Blake Corum isn't scoring 2 touchdowns for Michigan, it's Alabama's game 100%.
All right, so Sean, you mentioned a lot of good team names in that statement there. Moving next year, we have the 12-team playoff. Are you a fan of that, or you like the 4-team?
I'm loving the 12-team playoff. I wish this could happen right now. We'd see guys like Ole Miss, Liberty, Ohio State, Missouri in there. It adds competition. It adds more games to the season, allows these athletes to showcase their talents and what they can do. Most importantly, though, it allows the ability for fans to continue watching a sport that they love. Who doesn't love watching more football, especially when there's a lot more on the line for these guys?
Yeah, right. Like you said, it's all about the fans, you know. So who wouldn't want to watch more, you know? It gives a chance for more of the Cinderella story that everybody likes, you know. So I think that's a great idea.
All right, now moving on to the best players in the nation. Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Michael Penix Jr. Who's taking home that Heisman Trophy this year?
I got to say Jaden Daniels. You know, the LSU offense had 46.4 points per game, and Jaden Daniels was the key component to that. He has over 12,000 passing yards in his career and 3,000 rushing yards in his career. I think it was time for him to get that Heisman Trophy.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm looking at this one, and the big problem is that with Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr.'s great seasons, respect what they did. It's just they did not run the ball as efficiently as Jaden Daniels. They didn't hit 300 yards. Jaden Daniels hit over 1,000 this season, threw for 40 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions on the year. What we've seen from guys like Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, Tim Tebow, the running quarterback is so important. They oftentimes win the Heisman. He deserves to win it right there.
All right, so now taking a leap from the college playoffs to the NFL, we're talking Niners. Are they for real or are they frauds?
They're for real. Are you kidding me? That entire defense goes out. They absolutely dominate the Philadelphia Eagles. 298 yards average. That's 5th in the league. Only 2nd against the rush. 2nd in total points allowed, and 8th in sacks. Brock Purdy's playing like an MVP over the last few games. 2 games with over 80% of his passes completed. The entire NFL is on notice right now for this 49ers team.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, they got Brock Purdy playing at an MVP level. They got a stunning defense, and I was really impressed with that Eagles win going into their home turf and, being able to handle them like they did, I'm really impressed. I think they're for real.
All right, so looking at the other side of that, we look at the coaching. Who's out the door next season for coaches?
I got to go with the Washington Commanders. Ron Rivera, a lot of turmoil, a lot of things going on in that program. Guys asking for trades, 4-game losing streak, with 2 blowouts in there. It's a little rough, and I think they'll look to go in a different direction next year.
I'm looking at the NFC as well, but I'm going to head up north. I'm looking at Matt Eberflus for the Chicago Bears, a 7-22 record over the last 2 seasons. They've only won 1 game in the NFC North coming up against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football. Their GM, Brian Poole, said they're going to hold on to this division and never give it up, but they haven't held on to it once. And we've seen regression from Justin Fields on this offense this season. They're going in the wrong direction for me. I think they're just going to do another clean sweep of everything, and that includes Matt Eberflus.
All right, now switching from the gridiron to the courts, specifically the NBA in-season tournament. Are you guys loving the hype or not your style?
Yeah, I'm really liking it, It's a lot of cameras, a lot of media attention. Guys like Tyrese Halliburton are able to show off their game, get a little bit more publicity and get some all-league performances. I'm really liking it. I'm liking the jerseys. I'm liking the court. I think it was a really good idea.
Yeah, you're speaking to what it is that I love, because I don't really understand it fully, but I love the courts and I love the jerseys. It's been a lot of fun to see that. Watching the Celtics-Pacers game, watching how excited the Pacers bench got into it and how all the players were getting into it does bring, I think, another exciting element to the entire game, and fans are beginning to feel that as well, where almost every game is now starting to feel like a playoff game.
Right.
It's a new addition to the NBA. I love it for right now, even though it's still a little confusing to me.
All right, so moving on from the in-season tournament, we look at the full season. Who do you think is taking home that Larry O'Brien trophy?
Yeah, I got to go with the Lakers. They're going in with some momentum in the play-in tournament, or the in-season tournament. They're a really strong team led by LeBron. During the trade deadline, they made some trades last year and were able to make it to the Western Conference Finals with a team that didn't play much with each other. So with them having a full year, I think they'll win the championship this year.
Yeah, I'm looking at the team that just beat them in the Western Conference. I'm looking at the Denver Nuggets to repeat. Look, in Jokic we trust. It might be a slow start, but once Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray are back, this team is going to be getting going. Lakers going to be put on notice for that, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now moving from the pros, we go back to the future of the league, college hoops. Give me your way too early national title.
I have to say the UConn Huskies. They just played a game against Kansas. Even though they lost, I was really impressed. Didn't shoot it the best, but it's a team that really can score. Real gritty defensively, really good offense, really good defense. I think they really have a good chance to win a national championship this year.
I'm looking at the Big Ten. I'm looking at Purdue. This entire team has rallied behind Zach Edey, who's averaging 23-11 on the season. They did have a brutal loss to Northwestern by 4, but I expect them to pick it up. The Big Ten this year is weak in the college basketball position. I think it's going to be theirs to take. Then they'll have an easy ride in the tournament after that.
All right, that is going to be a wrap on the first part of your show. I'm your host, Ryan DeFranzo. Kyle, Sean, thank you for joining me. And coming up, we go to hockey, college football, and social media hot takes. Stay with us on The Hustle.
The Hustle, brought to you by the Sitting Duck Tavern.
Welcome back to The Hustle, your home for sports on the go. I'm Ryan DeFranzo, and joining me on set is The Hustle's very own NHL analyst, Cameron McLaren. Cam, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Ready to talk some hockey.
All right, let's get right into it. Starting at the top of the East, we have the New York Rangers playing so hot right now that the ice is literally melting. Do you think they can keep this play up?
Well, this is the Rangers' best start, it seems, in franchise history, and they're getting offensive help from the usual suspects, Artemi Panarin and Chris Kreider, and then they're getting scoring from defense, turning into offense. Keandre Miller has really broken out for the Rangers this season. They have those offseason additions with getting Jonathan Quick to shore up Shesterkin on the back end. This is still probably one of the best teams in the NHL right now, but when you have players like Keandre Miller who are giving you offense on the blue line, and you're also getting that offense from your top 6 forwards, this is still one of the best starts to a team that could possibly become champions of the East here pretty soon.
All right, moving up north, we go to the Edmonton Oilers. Is it time for them to break up their core?
Now, this is a team that statistically is one of the best teams in the NHL on paper, but it's been goaltending woes for them as of late. Stuart Skinner just isn't getting the job done, and it used to be Mikko Koskinen in net, the big 6'8" goaltender from Scandinavia, but they just can't seem to get things going this season. They've had a bad start to the year. They're losing games against in-conference opponents. They're losing to games against San Jose, which is really one of those teams that you can't lose against. But to be fair, they have the Hart Trophy winner in Connor McDavid. They have the other best forward in the league in Leon Draisaitl. There's something that needs to give, and I don't know if it's a new coach or if they really need to figure something out here going forward into the All-Star break.
All right, moving out west, we have the former champs, the Vegas Golden Knights. What can you tell us about their season so far?
This might be Misfits round 2. The defending Stanley Cup champions, you see, they blanked, and I mean blanked, the Florida Panthers last season. And Jack Eichel has been one of the main culprits for them this season. When he's healthy, he's probably the best forward, at least center, not only in the Western Conference, but one of the best in the league. And they're also getting depth scoring from guys like Keegan Colasar. Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill are backstopping in the net, and that's not something that they had last year with Robin Lehner going out on LTIR. He gets traded. Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill coming in are two of the best goaltenders in the league as of this moment, and they have proven to be so far from last season into this season.
All right, going across the country, we look at the top teams in the East: Bees, Canes, Wings, and Devils. What's going on there?
Yeah, this is a lot of parity in the East, and this is probably one of the reasons why a Stanley Cup champion hasn't come out of the East in recent memory. I mean, the only one I could think of is the Washington Capitals when a Western Conference that was not as good as it is now. Boston looks really good, but can they continue that in the playoffs? Detroit, the sleeper pick coming out of nowhere, has had a good start to the season. They've made some offseason additions with Steve Yzerman up as the GM. And Carolina and New Jersey, those are two staple teams that have come out of the Atlantic Division that continue to make waves. You're going to have to look for them to continue surging towards the playoffs. But to me, this is one of those conferences where there's so much parity that it hurts them in the long end.
We mentioned Canada earlier, but how long has it actually been since Canada won a Stanley Cup? And is this the year that it goes back north?
Well, you're going to have to think back to the Montreal Canadiens back in 1993, and they've not had a good start to the season for the Canadian teams. The Vancouver Canucks seem like the only team that can really take that void, because the Maple Leafs, you can't trust them in the playoffs. Calgary doesn't look like that team they were last season, and the same thing going with Ottawa, not a team that you want to bet on in the playoffs if they even make it. Vancouver has one of those teams that really, it's a young core that with that playoff experience that they can get going forward, is one of those teams that maybe they win it not this year, but maybe they go in next year or the year after, because you can't trust Winnipeg as well coming out of the Central. They can't get things done in the playoffs. Vancouver, if they get an easy path through the first round, they don't have to play a team like Vegas, they may be a dark horse pick to come out of that Western Conference and finally, break that curse that they had back in 2010 against the Bees.
All right, Kim, and finally, give me your favorite to win the Stanley Cup.
So for me, this is going to have to be a hometown pick for me, but the Dallas Stars seem like that team that's built to win now. They've signed people on good contracts. They locked up Jason Robertson, locked up Rope Hintz. They've gotten scoring from Jamie Benn, who's the former Art Ross Trophy winner back in 2014, the Renaissance last season, and they've got Jake Ottinger and Scott Wedgwood in net. And Jake Ottinger is one of those kids immediately out of college, has been one of the best goaltenders in the league. And I think the Stars are as a dark horse favorite to win the cup.
All right, that's all we have time for to talk about on NHL. Cam, thank you for joining us. Still to come, college football, social media, and top hustle plays right after this break. Welcome back to The Hustle, your home for sports on the go. I'm Ryan DeFranzo. That's Sean the Gandalf Gannon. How you doing, Sean?
Doing great. Looking to get into some of these social media takes we got here.
All right, let's get into it, shall we? Starting up, we have FSU. And I'm not going to lie to you, FSU is not going to lose a game this season, whether they have Jordan Travis or not, and they should be in this playoff.
Yeah, this was right before the ACC championship game, and absolutely under no circumstance should they purposely go out there and lose this game. It's not what any team does, not what any competitor does, not what any athlete does. Brandon Walker tweeted this. I can't believe he actually said it. Look, they're a competition-based team. Their goal is to win a national championship. Their goal is to win the ACC championship, to win every single game. They're not going to stop now just because their quarterback's injured.
And they've won every game this season. I don't know how they're not in this playoff. If I was on that committee, FSU is definitely in that playoff.
I'm right there with you, and that's a perfect segue to what J.J. Watt had tweeted right afterwards, which is a 6-team playoff, which would have given the bye week to Washington and to Michigan and would have allowed teams like Georgia and FSU in it.
I'm all for that, J.J. Watt. I want to see more football. I want better matchups. Keep these guys out on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And a team like Georgia, with their fan base and everything, Another opportunity to go against Alabama, and I'm sure that they all feel like they should have won that game considering, a little bit of lackluster offense in the second half from Alabama. They would have loved this opportunity to go back out there, beat them, prove that they're the team that deserves to be there, not Alabama, and then go and probably win the national championship because it is the Georgia Bulldogs after all. And I think FSU probably feels something similar to that as well.
And how about Missouri, those underdogs? They're a team that should be in that playoff as well. They made a late run in the season, and they could compete with those teams at the top of the league, and they should be in that playoff as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All right, speaking of playoffs, got some Heisman candidates. We got some transfer portal. Now, right now, transfer portal looks to be like the biggest MVP. Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Jaden Daniels, all guys that were in the portal, all Heisman candidates right now.
I mean, I'm loving it. Transfer portal is the MVP of this season. Talking about those guys that are in the Heisman, you got Bo Nix, who has a similar season to Justin Herbert, who's in the NFL now, and as well as Jaden Daniels, 3,800 yards, 40 touchdowns, plus 1,000 rushing and 10 touchdowns, similar to Joe Burrow, who had 4,700 yards and 48 touchdowns, 3 rushing in his Heisman season. And Marvin Harrison Jr., similar numbers to another guy in the NFL, Devonta Smith, 67 catches, 200 yards, 15 touchdowns, compared to Devonta Smith's 117 catches, 1,800 yards, and 23 touchdowns in his Heisman season.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think the only downside maybe to the transfer portal is that so many people might now begin to join in there. We're seeing all the quarterbacks find success. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a ton more quarterbacks jump into this year. Maybe even a handful of wide receivers. This is going to be a new opportunity maybe after seeing these guys go off on the Heisman for coaches to go out there and say, I want this guy. I'm going to do my best to try to recruit him, get him onto my program instead, and show him how we can bring him to be the best possible player that he can be.
All right, moving on, we got Adam Thielen, Carolina Panthers, former Minnesota Viking. He's on the Panthers now. He went there because he wanted to play with Andy Dalton and potentially win a Super Bowl. I have Thielen on my fantasy team. Started off great, not doing so hot now.
Yeah, the Panthers were never hot this season. Despite Adam Thielen maybe having a decent season at part, it's just looking like Bryce Young is not it so far for this rookie season. I'm not saying that his entire career, therefore, isn't going to be it, but when you're looking at what C.J. Stroud is doing at just the number 2 overall pick, you have to imagine the Panthers, who fired their quarterbacks coach Josh McGowan, who fired their running back coach in Deuce Staley, who fired their head coach in Frank Reich, who's had multiple offensive coordinators come in to call plays here. You have to imagine that they're saying, man, I wish we just got C.J. Stroud. We'd be in a much better position. Only 9-9 touchdowns to interception ratio for Bryce Young. It's not what they wanted to see during their rookie season, and it's not what Adam Thielen expected whatsoever with this Super Bowl team.
And how about that conference? Falcons, Bucks, Saints, Panthers, just god-awful. All right, moving on. Our next one, Pat McAfee talking about Hard Knocks and the Jets. And I'm not going to lie to you, Jets aren't going anywhere this season, regardless if they're on Hard Knocks or not without Rodgers.
Look, you're right. And I think in the moment, I was just as excited as Pat McAfee. Look, you're bringing in a Super Bowl champion, a 4-time MVP, 4-time All-Pro, 10-time Pro Bowler. We've seen all these magical throws that he's had throughout his entire career, how he's found ways to win in this game. It makes complete sense why anyone at this time would have said the exact same thing. And I was on that fan base as well. I really thought that the Jets had a chance here. They got a playoff caliber defense, and I know Jets fans really want to be out there.
And we haven't seen that the Wilson connection. He's been hurt. We've seen players like Breece Hall, though, and Sauce Gardner. They're having phenomenal seasons so far. All right, moving on, we got the Eagles-Niners, the birth of Big Dom. He changed the course of that game, and Niners ended up smashing the Eagles.
Yeah, it was an absolute blowout win for the 49ers. And I got to admit, this tweet was just wrong on all accounts. I think that they're not thinking about what they have defensively with Javon Hargrave, Chase Young, Nick Bosa, and then offensively in Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk. The list goes on and on and on. The 49ers are the best team in football. I know it's Philadelphia. That's a tough place to play. You're telling me Kyle Shanahan and this team can't get it going?
I know we saw Eagles-Niners last year in the NFC Championship. We could see them again this season.
Love to see that.
All right, that's enough social media for me, but don't go anywhere. We got more right after this. Coming up on The Hustle.
The Hustle is brought to you by Goodfellas Pizzeria, established in 1999.
Welcome back to The Hustle, your home for sports on the go. I'm Ryan DeFranzo, joined by Kyle McGee. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
Phenomenal. All right, guys, let's get into some top hustle plays First one up, LeBron James in the finals. The block heard around the world. Gets the block on Andre Iguodala right there and welcomes us to this block party. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this play?
Yeah, this was one of the plays that you just remember exactly where you were when it happened, you know. I remember being in my living room, probably in high school, maybe middle school, I don't remember. But LeBron comes down with the hustle play, Cavaliers end up winning their first championship.
Cavs would beat the Warriors there and go on to win that one. Moving on to our next play, we got Ray Allen on the Heat against the Spurs. We know how this one goes. James 3 won't go. Rebound Bosch, kick out to Allen, his three-pointer, bang. 5 seconds left on the clock, tie game, goes to overtime. Kyle, what do you see from Ray Allen right there?
Yeah, man, this was a huge shot, you know. This is something that he worked on over and over again, you know. LeBron James missed the three, but Chris Bosh, hustling as always, gets the rebound, is able to kick it out to Ray Allen. He finds the three-point line, is able to knock it down. This was game 6, so they were actually able to go into overtime, win the game, and then end up winning in 7.
So when you have the ball in your hands and you take that last shot, what's going through your head in that moment?
Well, you can't be nervous, man. It's the same as every other shot, you know. He worked on it a million times, and your confidence builds through repetition. So he worked on that so much that it probably wasn't even a big deal to him.
All right, moving to our last play. We got the Patriots, the Seahawks. It's the Super Bowl. We know how this one ends. Malcolm Butler intercepted at the goal line. Patriots win their 4th title at that time. What do you like from Malcolm Butler at that play?
Man, Malcolm Butler, man, that was the biggest play and probably one of the biggest plays in Patriots history. You know, they ended up winning the Super Bowl. I know everybody thought that Marshawn Lynch was going to get the ball. They ended up deciding to do a pass play for whatever reason. Malcolm Butler ends up getting an interception. That's why you can't go pass and on the goal line, you know what I'm saying?
If you're the Seahawks head coach, Pete Carroll, what are you thinking in that moment, like looking over the play sheet? Why are you going pass instead of Marshawn Lynch on that play?
Well, if I was the coach, I would have went run. So I'm not really sure what Pete Carroll was thinking at the moment. Ended up being a mistake. You know, Seahawks end up not winning the Super Bowl because of it. I think if Marshawn Lynch gets the ball there, he's able to run it in. What was it, first down, right? Yeah, so I think he would have been able to run it in.
All right, thank you, Kyle. That's going to wrap up the top hustle plays and the hustle. Thank you for watching.